Thank you for joining me today. Today, I want to talk about why we need to stop criticizing. And this is a two-part series. And in today's video, my focus is on why we need to stop criticizing. And when I come back in the next video, I will show you how to stop criticizing. And so today, I want to address everyone listening and watching. I have been a victim of criticizing, and I'm realizing this. I'm working on myself, and I want to show you why criticizing is not helpful. Recently, I made a Facebook post on why we need to stop criticizing, and I said that we need to all stop criticizing others and measuring on their faults and start taking a look at ourselves and working even harder to become better examples, shining examples, lighting the corners where we find ourselves, changing the world one person at a time. This may not be exactly what I said, but I'm elaborating on that message, and I found that it resonated with a lot of people, and that's why I decided to make a two-part series on why we need to stop criticizing and how we can stop criticizing. And so the focus today is why we need to stop this unhealthy habit of criticizing. So sometimes we find ourselves criticizing our friends, our families, and we're majoring on our faults, and that's what I mean by criticizing. Criticizing is when you highlight the other person's faults, when you tend to talk more about the things they're doing wrong, rather than also pointing out the good things they're doing. And so just before I continue, I want to talk about the fact that there are two types of criticism. There is constructive criticism and there is destructive criticism. Constructive criticism is when you highlight someone's the right thing or the good things that someone is doing, and then you show how they could improve on that thing. You show how, the things they could do to even make what they're doing better, to progress in the good things or to become even more effective in the things they're already doing. On the other hand, destructive criticism is when we major on people's faults. We highlight their faults and we become so blind to the good things they're doing, and this causes demotivation, and this causes stress in others, but much more it causes stress in you who's criticizing, because you're just so blind to the point where you see nothing good. So some people find it hard to stop themselves from making negative comments. They are just so into it. They just go with it. They just go for it. The negative comments, and they do this about everything and everyone around them. They're always nagging and they're always criticizing others, and others holding their hurt and anger. And when this kind of behavior is being manifested, until they can't take it anymore. So when they've had it up to here, they're always going to burst out, and they're always going to express how they feel. I don't know if you've ever been around someone and you think you've been so nice to them, and one day they just got up and really gave it to you and told you how you've really been mean to them. This has happened to me, and I've learned a lot about criticism and how to be constructive in my criticism. And I want to encourage you, stop criticizing people destructively and be constructive in your criticism. Being critical and holding others to exceptionally high standards, it's also a sign of high criticism when you just feel like people should be so good at what they do. You're a perfectionist and you want people to be perfect in everything they do. That is high criticism perfectionists. This is how I want to call such people. They are so good at what they do, and they want nothing short of how they do it, and the way they do it. That is how they want others to do it. They are high criticism perfectionists, and so you can go back, take a step back, and examine your life. Have you been offering constructive criticism, or have you been offering destructive criticism? And there are a few reasons, I think at least three reasons why you should stop criticizing if you've been criticizing destructively. And the first reason is that it is hurtful. It is hurtful to you first, before it is hurtful to the other people around you. Nagging, criticizing, and focusing on other people's or your families and friends faults, and your kids even. When you focus on their faults, when you focus on the things they're not doing good, it's going to hurt you when you do it, when you overdo it, when you do it too much. It's good to be observant about the people around you so you can be able to step in and offer advice, but you have to be careful and watch how you do this. You don't want to come across as someone who is imposing their ideas, not only imposing their ideas, but who is overly critical, and people become conscious of this, and sometimes they just prefer to stay away from you, and you don't know why people have been running away from you until you realize that you've been very critical about everything and everyone. So you need to be someone who is offering constructive criticism, and not someone who's offering criticism that is meant to degrade other people, to demotivate other people. So you need to be careful, because when you become overly critical of every and anything people do, you're going to hurt your relationships. You're going to hurt your communication with other people, and you're going to hurt other people's feelings. When you lose your friends, it's going to hurt you as well. So it is hurtful. Being overly critical is hurtful to you, it's hurtful to other people. The second reason why you need to stop criticizing is that it doesn't just work. Criticism, destructive criticism, unconstructive criticism doesn't work. Criticizing is demotivating sometimes. If you don't learn the craft, if you don't learn how to offer constructive criticism, you're always going to demotivate people in the name of encouraging them. So be mindful about this, and be sure that you are not doing the opposite when you think you are offering constructive criticism. So we think it's going to maybe get people around us, our co-workers, our friends, our kids, even our spouses. We think criticism is going to get them better. It's not going to get them better. It's only going to get them worse. If you can't highlight the good thing someone is doing, how do you think you're going to encourage them to do even better when all you do is spend time highlighting their faults? They're going to just resign to mediocrity and do whatever they do, whatever they want to do, because after all, no one is going to recognize what they're doing. After all, they're only going to be criticized, even if they try to put in their best. So be mindful of the things you say, be mindful of the things you do around people, thinking that you are offering them encouragement, or thinking you're giving them some support. In some ways, you might be too critical and not know that you are too critical. So step back and watch your actions, watch your words, and watch even your non-verbal cues. There are certain things we do and non-verbally, and they are still being perceived by the other people, by the other person, as criticism. So we've said that it is hurtful, and secondly, it doesn't just work, and thirdly, and the last thing I want to talk about is that the more you criticize, the more unhappy you get. So you become miserable when you are that kind of person who has nothing to offer but criticism. Watch out. It is going to destroy your life. It's going to make you so unhappy. It's going to make you miserable in the midst of other people. Even when you are by yourself, you become miserable, because people are going to just not like you. I don't want to use the word hate. It's a strong word, but people will not like you if you're that kind of person who's always critical of others, who's always offering criticism, who has nothing else to offer but criticism. And so there is an interesting phenomenon called a negativity bias. And this is essentially means that we tend to look for and focus on the problems more than the positives. So the negativity bias, you tend to identify the negatives. You tend to identify the problem rather than what people are doing correctly, rather than the good things people are doing around you. You become so sensitive to people's mistakes, the way people pronounce, the way people walk, the way people chew, the way people smile. You're so critical about everything. You don't see the nice haircut they've got like mine. You don't see the white teeth they've got, the beautiful eyes they've got, and the nice things around or about them. But you tend to see mostly the negatives. That is the negativity bias. So these are the reasons why you need to stop criticizing. It is hurtful. It doesn't just work. And the more you criticize, the more miserable you become, the more unhappy you become. So stop criticizing. And if you're wondering how you can stop criticizing, watch out for my next video where I show you how you can stop being critical of other people. Thank you and be blessed.